Hello, my inspired entrepreneurs. Thank you for joining me. I am bringing you a Tuesday training on Wednesday. So, if you are on my email list, then you probably got my email today talking about how we try so hard to be perfect. And I kind of realized yesterday that um, I did not have the capacity to jump on and give a training. So instead of just skipping it, I said, you know what, I'm just going to embrace the imperfection and I'm giving you my Tuesday training on Wednesday. So welcome. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching if you're watching the replay. Thank you for being here. So today's training is 5 tips to create live videos that will captivate your community, even if you're just starting out. So live video is really the #1 way that I've built my community, whether it's doing these Facebook Lives or if I'm going on Instagram stories, because live video creates this personal connection that, you're just not getting really the same thing when you're writing out an email. So I'm going to go through 5 tips that I've learned as I've been doing, live videos for about a year, and things that I've really learned that have helped me to create better live videos. All right, so #1 is to not create a script. When I first started, I would literally write every single little word out and read it, and it was kind of awful. And the example I use is have you ever called a cable company and you ask them a question and they come back with some scripted answer and you're like, wait, that doesn't answer my question at all. So you don't want your videos to sound like that. And that's kind of how I sounded when I started out. It was very much that reading the teleprompter. And I guess if you're a really good actor, you can make it work, but I'm not, so it didn't really work for me. So I recommend, instead of scripting everything out, to just create high-level speaking points. And for example, for this video, I literally, so far what we've gotten through in the content, it's literally welcome. There's a bullet point, welcome to your Tuesday training on Wednesday, introduction with the name of the video, and this is the #1 way I've built my community. Next point, live video equals personal connection. And then #1, don't have it all scripted out. Point after that, have you gotten on the phone with cable companies? Point after that, create speaking points. So they're just very high level, and it's a lot easier to create your content when you're thinking high level and just let yourself riff on it. All right. #2 is to slow it down. So this is something that I really had to teach myself because I like to get really excited and speak really fast. But if you are speaking slowly, succinctly, people will understand more of what you're saying. So slow it down. One thing that I like to do is just remember to breathe. At the end of a sentence, take a deep breath and let there be just a little bit of silence. You can see it kind of changes the energy. If I'm talking like this and getting really excited versus, all right, we're going to really dive into this today. It's a lot more thoughtful, and people will connect more with what you're saying. Okay, #3, practice makes perfect. So plan on not being very good in the beginning, because nobody's good, nobody's naturally good at anything in the beginning. So with step #1 or tip #1, when I said to, create those high level points, you're going to have to practice that. So maybe you are writing more in the beginning so that you're not losing your train of thought. But as you get more and more comfortable, you'll be able to rely on those high level points. And just some food for thought here is that you only have to be good enough to keep people engaged and keep them watching. So as long, it's fine if you're kind of stumbling over your words. It's fine if you kind of speed up and then you have to kind of rail yourself back in. It's okay. People will still keep watching. It's when you have maybe those, I lost my train of thought, or, you kind of get off on a tangent and things like that, where you kind of start losing your audience. You just want to avoid those things, but it's perfectly fine to be imperfect. In fact, it's better that you are imperfect rather than, you know, the newscaster with a teleprompter, because that's not what people want. They'd watch the news if they wanted that. The recommendation here is to start with short little videos and then make them longer as you feel more comfortable. So maybe you're just making like 2-minute tip videos. Like that's perfectly fine. You know, start there. Get really comfortable doing those, and then you can make them longer. Maybe you go to an hour, maybe 30 minutes. You know, just kind of get a gut check with your audience to see what length of video they're really responding to. Some people like longer videos. Some people only have 5 minutes to watch your videos a day. So that was kind of a tangent. But that number 3 was practice makes perfect. So don't worry about being perfect in the beginning and embrace your imperfections. All right, tip number 4. I think this is a little ironic, but create a space that lends itself for a successful video. So minimize things in the background. And I say this is ironic because we are remodeling our house right now. So I literally have stacks of drawers around me. So that's why I'm like tilting my screen up. So you're not like, what is all that crap on her floor? But you want to kind of minimize the things around you so they're not distracting people. Kind of try to create a backdrop that is pleasant, or just things where people aren't distracted by what's behind you. You want to minimize the noise. So a lot of times, like I have 2 cats and they will be very noisy. So I'll like put them in a bedroom while I do my videos. A couple other ones, yeah, make sure that you have a really good internet connection, because if you are kind of coming in and out, then you're going to lose people. And then the other thing is that if you are doing live videos with your phone, try to put it on a steady surface. Don't hold your phone yourself. Like, have you ever seen those Facebook videos where it's like, you can do it, it's like, but try to keep it steady. Maybe you get some kind of mount. What I do is I'll lean my phone up against things if I'm taking a video with my phone. So those are just some kind of tips to make your video a little bit more appealing so that people will keep watching and they won't get distracted and things aren't happening that they are kind of losing interest in what you're actually saying. All right, I got a little bit fast there, so I need to slow it down, take a breath. All right, and tip number 5 is to ask simple questions. So I don't do a ton of questions in these quick little Tuesday trainings because they're short, but when I'm doing my longer trainings that are like an hour, I want to keep engaging my audience, and so I'll ask them simple questions. So what I mean by simple is things where they're saying yes or no, maybe giving me a thumbs up or an emoji, things like that. So here are 2 examples to kind of show you what I mean. All right, so if I asked you, give me a thumbs up if you are feeling this tip number 5. You know, you can easily just stick a thumbs up emoji in there. All right, versus if I asked you, tell me the thought process behind creating your business. And you're sitting there and you're like, wow, like I'm just starting to think about this. I'm like, that really like could be like a book or it could be like a whole blog post or email where it's something super long, something that you actually have to think about. It's not something quick. So with those longer responses, by the time they have thought of something, if they haven't just decided to skip your question and put it into the comments, you have probably ended the live video or moved on to a totally different point where their comment is now out of context. So keep your questions simple so that they can just respond really quickly on live video, because there's also a lag. So I found sometimes when I ask questions, like I have to kind of say a little bit of filler and then I'll read my answers. All right, so bonus, those were just kind of tips on the presentation of your video. But my little bonus tip is that you want to create content that your audience wants. And the best way to do this is to ask them. So if you have been in my community for a while, you know that I'm emailing surveys, I'm putting polls on social media, I have to actually get into my Facebook group here answering questions. So the purpose of all of these is really to make sure that I have a gauge on my audience and my community, and that I know what you want, and I can kind of go back and look at responses when I'm trying to create ideas for content. So, you know, like, just look for places where you can be gathering information with your community. And I've also found that people love to give back. People love to give me feedback on what they want. So it's really an easy ask for your audience. All right, so those are my 5 tips plus 1 bonus on how to create videos that will captivate your community, even if you're just starting out. So number 1 was, don't have it all scripted out. Number 2, slow it down. Getting to this point, I realized that I speed up. So this is something that I'm still working on. Number 3, practice makes perfect. Number 4, create a space that lends itself to your live video. Number 5, ask simple questions. And the bonus one is create content that your audience wants by asking them and figuring it out that way. So thank you so much for joining my Tuesday training on Wednesday. I so appreciate you showing up and being flexible with my imperfections. So thank you again. If you have not heard yet, I am running a free live mini course next week. It's a 5-day course, and it's called Easy and Inspired Instagram Content. So for 5 days, I'm going to be walking you through just how you can create a system to make Instagram content, and really you could, you know, kind of tweak this for any social media platform. So I'm walking you through my system on how you can create a system. So I'm walking you through how you can create a system over 5 days for your Instagram content. So thank you again so much for being here. I so appreciate you watching and being part of the Inspired Entrepreneurs community. Thanks again, and grab the link in the description and RSVP for that live event. I've gotten a lot of great feedback and interest in it, so it should be a really good one. All right, thanks again. I will see you next week, or in between in the Facebook group.